Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Mark Honerman. I'm here this afternoon to discuss with you special education. Um, and by special education, I mean the things that I, as a teacher, can do for you and your child, and the things that you, as parents, can also do for your child to ensure that they're going to get the quality and full education that is rightfully appropriate for them and their disability. Now, I'm not trying to scare anybody off by any means, and I certainly don't want anybody to feel upset or attacked or betrayed or anything. I'm simply putting this all together to provide information for you to hopefully help aid you in making quality decisions for the education of your child. What I will be covering, or I will do my best to cover, is some of the various programs that are available to you and your child, some of the different aspects of special education. I'm going to try and cover a brief history of education, not just education, I'm sorry, but a brief history of special education and how far back it actually seems to have gone. But with all of that being said, please bear with me through this presentation, and I hope that by the end of this presentation that if you have any questions, that you will do what you can to ask those questions, and hopefully I will provide a good means for you to find the right people and the right connections to get the questions answered in a manner that's going to suit you. Certainly, I, as a parent myself, don't like to be talked down to, so to speak. I'd like to have somebody talk to me in the terms that I can understand, that the terms that are going to treat me like me, not a professional talking down to me in the manner that they understand, but me as a parent or as an individual do not fully understand. So please listen carefully to the presentation that I have today and find it in your hearts, or I guess however you want to dig into it and view it. It's certainly not a punishment on you or your child. It's a fact of life, and sometimes we have children that are exposed to or suffer from disabilities, and all we can do as parents is love them the same as if they were a normal, happy, healthy child. And speaking of happy, I truly believe that almost all of the children with a disability are happy in one way or another. I'm sure they do feel frustrated at times, and as do the parents themselves. You want to be able to help more than you seem to be able to, but remember that they are children and they deserve the fair and appropriate education that's available to them. And I guess the other main point that I want you to know is that we as educators aren't out to discriminate or segregate your children simply for a disability. We want them to be included in what we call the least restrictive environment possible for them and their disability. We want them to learn as much as normal children learn. So please Listen carefully and keep an open mind to the information that you're about to hear today. Children and adults alike have received a lot of ridicule and special treatment, so to speak, dating way back in history. The Spartans in ancient history, BC times, were known to have suggested very strongly that families who had different children leave them behind, thinking that these children weren't going to be able to match up or be grown up into anything that would be worthwhile. They were encouraged to leave these children in the cold, so they would end up dying in the cold. Then we can look at 400 BC with Hippocrates. Hippocrates actually showed a little concern for some of these individuals. He believed that these differences were caused by supernatural powers, but that they were caused by natural forces within the human body. And then things continue as time goes on. In 375 BC, Plato defended those who had what we called then as mental disabilities. And then in the period from 1450 to 1700 AD became a very difficult time for those who were mentally ill or had special needs. As history progressed and more people got involved with those individuals with mental difficulties and special needs, those people became more and more in tune with those individuals and wanted to do more for helping them out. And I don't mean that in that they really were down on their luck and needed all this help, but they recognized that there was a need for these individuals to receive a special care, special treatment. In the 1700s, Jean-Marc Gaspard Itard, he was kind of one of the first ones that got things started. He started looking for new methods and different means of teaching those who had the mental challenges in their lives. The 1800s continued to bring changes and enlightenment to those with disabilities and special needs. The first residential schools for individuals with those needs were developed. And then in the early 1900s, the Perkins School for the Blind was established, and that became the first school for the blind in the United States. Then we move up into the beginning of the 20th century. Well, I'm sorry, before that, you have, and most of us are familiar with Helen Keller, the fact that she was blind and deaf and that she was able to be taught. And then in the 20th century, community-based programs started to develop. And then up into the 21st century and late 20th century, basically, as you can see, that people are concerned, and there is a need and there is a want to educate not only your child but every child that has a disability, whether it's a mental disability, physical, emotional. There's many different kinds of disabilities out there, but the communities themselves are gearing up and standing behind those with these disabilities. And it doesn't stop at the individual itself. A lot of these programs that are available are open to the families as well as the individual with the disability. because it has been recognized that the families can and do struggle just as much as the children themselves do. So that's why a lot of these organizations have been started to help the families to understand and be a part of their children's life. Some of these organizations don't and haven't stopped with just a single organization being involved with this. Communities have gotten behind a lot of the efforts as well, and it shows with a lot of the programs that have been developed for individuals and families of those individuals with the disabilities. A lot of organizations, and I've got a few that I'm going to highlight for you here. Here we have Morgan's Wonderland. It's the only, and I repeat, the only amusement park in the world for children and adults with disabilities. This was started with, or from the Gordon Hartman Foundation in 2011. The Easter Seals organization has been helping individuals and those with disabilities and their families for over 90 years. Edgar Allan was a businessman who lost his son in a streetcar accident in 1907, and he was the primary founder of the Easter Seals Foundation. Special Olympics is an athletic program for people with intellectual disabilities, and it's the world's largest sports program with over 150 countries. And this was established in 1968 by Eunice Kennedy Shriver. Autism Speaks is an organization that was founded in 2005, and Autism Speaks, it's the largest nonprofit science and advocacy organization that fund research that focus on the causes and prevention. And we have the ARC. The ARC was first chartered in 1950 and became active in influencing state legislators and Congress. It was set up by a small group of parents and other concerned individuals who wanted to act as a voice for those with intellectual disability. Over the years, there's been a lot of legislation and public laws and various amendments and acts regarding those with special education and their needs. The most important of these has been Public Law 94-142. 94-142, as I just stated, is probably the most important piece of legislation that has been enacted for students and individuals with disabilities and special needs. 94-142 is the public law that is responsible for ensuring and regulating a free and appropriate education for those individuals with disabilities. That is the term we use for that is a FAPE, capital F, capital A, capital P, and capital E, free and appropriate public education. And what this means is that even though the individual has a disability, they are entitled to the same education as those individuals that are not suffering from a disability. And also part of that 94-142 states that the individuals with the disabilities need to be placed in what we would call the least restrictive environment for their disability. And what we mean by that is if the individual can still cope within a fully inclusive, I'll call it, classroom with with all the other normal students, but they just have a struggle with reading or with writing, something of that nature, by all means, we want to keep them in that full classroom so they can gain the experiences and the same learning environment as all of the rest of their peers have got. But on the same token with that, if we have an individual that their disability or their state, maybe I want to call it, is such where they can't cope in a regular classroom, then we as educators in the school systems will do what we can to put them in the place that is going to be best suited for them. In some instances, it could mean a combination of the regular classroom with all the rest of the regular students, and part of the time with, in a special classroom for a reading disability, or heaven forbid that it gets to the point where they have to be institutionalized, if that is the least restrictive environment for them. But we will most certainly do everything we can to make their education a good quality education, and make it the education that they deserve. Here's a snapshot of an IEP, or at least the start of an IEP. Now, this is in here to give you an idea of what to expect in some of the paperwork, but the IEP is an individual education plan for your child with a disability. The IEP is only a part of the individual education plan, but the IEP states exactly what is expected of educators and the students themselves. But don't be afraid. This little cartoon here, it kind of depicts an overwhelming situation, but please be proactive and ask any questions of stuff that you don't understand. Now, I know I've covered a lot in the explanations, that in the short explanations actually that I've given, but there's so much more that can be said and learned on every aspect of the special education program. But one of the key things that I really want to emphasize to you as parents is don't be afraid to ask questions. We're not all the bad guys. Yes, sometimes I think you're going to run into that from certain individuals, but for the most part, all of the educators simply want to see the best for your child. And I guess a couple of other key points to remember is none of this will ever get started until you've been notified. We as an educator, yes, we may suspect something. Little Billy is struggling with his reading here, and I think he could benefit from a special ed program. Well, at that point, that's all that I can do. I can make a recommendation, and then it goes further. But you as the parents need to be contacted and brought into any discussions and any planning immediately. We won't go into anything without your knowledge. As a matter of fact, I know of a few cases where there have been educators that have spoke with the parents about their children because of concerns that they've had, and the parents said, no, we don't want him to be in that program. We don't want him labeled in that manner, if you want to call it a label, but ultimately the choice belongs to you. And again, I can't emphasize it enough that we're here to help you, we're here to help your child, and we want you to understand everything and not be rushed into decisions about your child and your child's education. So please, take the time, ask some questions. Don't take any of this lighthearted, and don't rush into it. Make sure you have all of your questions answered before you sign anything or agree to anything, and make sure you weigh all your options. But I guess the last point that I want to make is, please come to your child's teachers, the administration, anybody that you think can give you a hand in understanding what's going on with your child's education. So, again, I can't emphasize it enough, but I want to be here to help you, and I hope the video that I have put together has given you some insight on it, and has maybe opened your eyes a little bit more. But good luck to everybody, and I hope you get the results and the answers that you're looking for. Thanks. Have a great day.